Rebecca, at events in Tampa. When was that? I'm losing track of days. Was that?
It was last Thursday.
Okay, so last Thursday, and we were on the stage with Mike Gallagher and Alfredo Ortiz of the Job Creators Network, and then Rebecca started talking about actually several things. She is a wealth and financial guru, if you will. She started talking about how the IRS is going to track our bank transactions over $600 or under $600. So I want to talk about that, Rebecca. And then you started saying,
Sure.
you better start shopping early for Christmas. Let's start with the $600 Biden plan, if
Yeah.
you will. And then let's talk about Christmas, why we better start shopping like right now.
Yeah. Well, with a proposal to spend $3.5 trillion on quote infrastructure, that you're going to need to raise some revenue. There's going to be a revenue raise in there somewhere. Even though I know Biden tweeted out this week that it would cost absolutely nothing. I don't understand. I mean, and it's for Larry's listeners, Carl, that, understand the detail of it. When you do something through reconciliation, you have to balance it. So whatever you spend, you have to cut the exact same amount on the offsetting side in order for it to be a net zero. So Biden, when he tweeted that, he was referring to the fact that in order to pass something through budget reconciliation, they have to likewise cut $3.5 trillion of spending and or raise $3.5 trillion of spending to make it a net zero so it can be passed through reconciliation. So people don't know that. So they see this tweet from this guy and they say, oh, he says it's going to cost nothing. So we might as well just go ahead and spend $3.5 trillion, and this is all just great. So one of the revenue raises, Carl, that this administration is putting out there is they are saying that, and it's already really been shot down by even their own party. Their own party realizes how absolutely, totally over the edge this is. But what Biden proposed was that U.S. banks would report automatically all of your transactions individually to who they were to that were $600 or more, and that they would summary report every year how much total deposits and total withdrawals are made by account, both personal and business.
Okay, so first off, this is insane. This is spying.
Yes.
But
yes.
Beyond that, how do we even have the resource? We don't even have the resources to make this happen. It's insane.
They're proposing a massive budget increase for the IRS for compliance and control of our finances. And instead of becoming a voluntary tax return set up an establishment that we've been in our entire lifetime, and it's voluntary, you can pay criminal charges and go to jail if you don't comply. So most people voluntarily comply with our tax system, and they voluntarily report. And we haven't had to have the Gestapo running the enforcement division. But when you start becoming a socialistic country and you start spending $8 trillion when your market crashes because you automatically shut down and quarantine healthy people and shut the economy down for the first time in the history of recorded time, when you do things like this and that causes you to spend $8 trillion so that you keep at bay a depression, and then that opens up the floodgates from heaven where people say, oh, $8 trillion is nothing. We can handle this. And then your next thing you know, the very next administration is coming into power and saying, we want to pass $4.5 trillion out of the gate.
Right. Yeah, honestly, this is my fear. Honestly, Rebecca, even going back to this $1.2 trillion bipartisan deal that the Senate passed, and I'm hoping that both of them crash, quite frankly. But I look at this stuff and I'm like, it baffles me that Republicans participate in this nonsense and these endless continuing, what are they? Continuing resolutions? Like, when was the last time we've had an annual budget? We constantly live in this state of fear where it's, oh my God, a shutdown, a shutdown. And it just allows the government, both sides, to just spend our money like crazy.
Yes, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse, Carl, because if you look at the news out today, you saw that the UK has announced they're going to digital currency. And this has already happened the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month in China. So what you're starting to see so fast, these things are now coming so fast. so fast, Carl. What you're starting to see is the push now to go completely digital. And once you go completely digital, you have to start to ask yourself, what is the difference between U.S. digital currency and U.K. digital currency and Chinese digital currency? In other words, what I'm saying is, once you're completely digital, there is no steps in between that and moving to one world currency.
Wow, that's very depressing. Thanks for that, Rebecca. You know,
So sorry.
no,
I'm just
honestly,
saying, these are things
listen.
we have
That's
to
why
care
you're
about.
here. That's why you here. What do you? Okay, so Sean McConnell just shared this column with me. Now, this is going to depress some people, but the Dollar Tree is going up in price. Biden inflation is absolutely hitting everywhere. What do people do? How do we protect ourselves? I mean, seriously, I'm at a loss here.
It's funny because, I made this point last Thursday. I was talking about how Powell and, if you look in globally, Christine Lagarde is basically saying inflation is transitory. And I said last Thursday, it's funny because I can say something's transitory because no one will know I was wrong until we realize it wasn't, right? It's something that you can easily cast off and say. It's something you can easily say. But literally within the last 3 hours, because of Jerome Powell's testimony this week, the last 3 hours, we just got Market Watch coming out saying sudden realization that inflation may persist is starting to dawn on many U.S. investors. So we're starting to get the clue that, wow, you know what? You can't spend $80 trillion or $8 trillion, in less than 2 years and not have 40% of it end up in the market, which is exactly what's happened. We're about 40% off of our high before the virus. We have no economic fundamentals to support that. We have over 10 million job openings that nobody's going back to work because between Biden's AFP plan that was passed in March of this year, where they give $300 per child for up to 4 children under the age of 19, you have that plus the federal bump up that just ended in September 6th of this month. You have so much money going to people now in this administration, intentionally getting them just enough to get out of poverty and survive without working, but never going and growing as God intended us all to do, to be our best version of ourselves, whatever we choose to do, and honor Him throughout our lives. People are never going to do that if they're just barely outside of poverty. And that's what these, tenants of this administration are doing. Get as many people at home on the government dole, because then they will vote the way we want. They will act the way they will want. They will do what we want. We'll have a majority forever. This will no longer be a democracy. It will be socialism, and that will be the end of it.
Rebecca, listen, we have 30 minutes before the break. Or 30 seconds, I'm sorry. 40 seconds before the break. Can you stick with me through the break, or do you need to go?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
I'll stick with you.
All right, so we're speaking with Rebecca Walser, and she is a financial guru, so that's why we have her on, because listen, we are in cray-cray world when it comes to Biden inflation, and we need to figure out how to fight back if we can, or at least be aware